Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, Chapter 14, Pregnancy of Diti in the Evening, Text 43. Na Brahma Danda Dagdasya Na Bhuta Bayadasya Cha Narakaschanu Grinanti Yam Yam Yonam Asalgataha Na Brahma Danda Dagdasya Na Bhuta Bayadasya Cha Narakaschanu Grinanti Yam Yam Yonim Asalgataha Na Brahma Danda Dagdasya Na Bhuta Bayadasya Cha Narakaschanu Grinanti Yam Yam Yonim Asalgataha Vaishnavis. Na, never. Brahmadanda, punishment by a brahmana. Daganasya, of one who is so punished. Na, neither. Bhutabhayadasya, of one who is always fearful to the living entities. Cha, also. Naraka, those condemned to hell. Cha, also. Anugrananti, do any favor. Yam Yam, whichever. Yonim, species of life. Aso, the offender. Gata, goes. Translation. A person who is condemned by a brahmana or is always fearful to other living entities is not favored either by those who are already in hell or by those in the species in which he is born. Purport. A practical example of a condemned species of life is the dog. Dogs are so condemned that they never show any sympathy to their contemporaries. ways. Translation again. A person who is condemned by a brahmana or is always fearful to other living entities is not favored either by those who are already in hell or by those in the species in which he is born. Om Ganachimidandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshun Militang Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Believe it or not, Diti is appreciating that her sons will be killed. But her first fear was they're going to cause havoc and cruelty to so many living entities. I wonder if they'll be killed by the brahmanas. The brahmanas can curse. But then she hears that they'll be killed personally by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that makes her happy. So we've changed scenes here, as Prabhupada reveals in the purports, from utter disaster, the aftermath of a reproductive activity at the wrong time, at the wrong place, the wrong way. You may recall how her husband, Kashyapa Muni, read out the charge sheet, the list of things she had done wrong. Your consciousness was polluted, the wrong time, twilight, in this way you disobeyed Dharma. You didn't listen to me, and you offended the demigods like Lord Shiva. But then he's going to list as the scene changes from, and he was angry, but the scene is changing to hope. Hope because the grandson of Diti will be such an extraordinary devotee. So first of all, what about this fear of being condemned by the brahmanas? There's a big difference between being cursed by the brahmanas and being killed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Diti knew this. After all, her father is Daksha. Her husband is Kashyapa Muni. So she understood, although it seems to be violence and cruelty when someone is killed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, actually it's the greatest benediction because they can attain liberation. Now let's go into the fine print about that attaining liberation. It may not happen right away. It's in the cards, so to speak. You can understand this more in the what I call the manual of the avatars, Lagu Bhagavatamrita. We can put in a plug for the BBT. It's a beautiful BBT version done by the BBT translating team. Rupa Goswami's details as commented on by Srila Baladev Vidyabhusan. So there he explains that, yes, as Lord Brahma says, all the avatars are equal in potency, but they all don't manifest what especially three forms of the Lord manifest. And we're Rupanugas, we're following the footsteps of Rupa Goswami. And he gives us this information, that there are three special forms of the Lord called Pada Avasta. Number one is Lord Nrsingadev. Number two is Lord Ramchandra. And number one is Lord Krishna himself, Swayam Bhagavan. Why are these three standouts? Because of their capacity for reciprocating with devotees' love. Even someone as fierce as Lord Nrsingadev, as we heard Sarvas Prabhu reading this morning. He's reciprocating with Prahlad in such an extraordinary way. Actually, Lord Nrsingadev appeared not only for Prahlad, but for the benefit of all living entities. But he had a special reciprocation with Prahlad. So, in Laghu Bhagavatamrita, which if you've read Prabhupada's books again and again, you can look at the details of the avatars. There's a conversation between Parashara Muni and Maitreya Muni. Just like now you're in the midst of a conversation between Vidur and Maitreya Muni. So the verse comes up, spoken by Bilva Mangala Thakur, that there are many appearances of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but who but Krishna himself can give prema, love, to even the creepers, the plants that grow in the ground. So the purport by Baladev Vidyabhusan describes that Lord Ramachandra's appearance had a quick and short influence upon the plants. When Ramchandra was exiled to the forest, the plants cried out of separation. But that was just one brief moment. However, when Krishna enters the forest in Vrindavan, even though he's right there with the plants, the trees, still they're shivering, trembling, and crying in ecstasy. Even though he goes every day to the forest, and they're with him there in the forest, still the hairs on their bodies of the trees, plants, and cows stand on end. And the trees shoot out sap, sweet sap, every day. So Bilva Mangala Thakur, as quoted by Rupa Goswami, says this is a hint that there's something special about Krishna that other forms of the Lord, even Ramchandra, don't reveal. So when you approach Lord Nrsingadev, Lord Ramchandra, and Krishna, you're like going up the steps of a palace. So you start with Lord Nrsingadev. Yes, he killed Hiranyakashipu. Hiranyakashipu took a while. He's Jai, of Jai and Vijay. He took a while to attain the ultimate destination of a relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Liberation doesn't mean merging. Liberation means achieving a personal relationship. So what happened to Hiranyakashipu? He was certainly killed by Lord Nrsingadev. But the point that Rupa Goswami is making is that only Krishna himself can actually bring you to a close personal relationship. Hiranyakashipu thought, well, this half man, half lion he's attained, this is a creature brought about by austerities and pious activities, just like I, Hiranyakashipu, performed severe austerities and got all my powers. So similarly, this half man, half lion creature is the product of some austerities, some mystic powers. He did not recognize the Supreme Personality of Godhead for who he is. So therefore, when he was killed, he took another birth as Ravana. But that birth as Ravana was combined with opulence that rivaled or even surpassed what the demigods have. Ravana had 10 heads. His material enjoyment exceeded that of the Devatas. of course, he's killed by Lord Ramchandra. But again, the ultimate liberation was withheld because both Hiranyakashipu and Ravana had such an attitude of defiance, and they did not recognize that this is the supreme absolute truth killing us. We already spoke about Hiranyakashipu's perception. Oh, a creature created by karma. Ravana was too much absorbed in Sita. That was his main meditation, the beauty of Sita. So when he's killed by Ramchandra, he doesn't appreciate the glories of Lord Ram in terms of being the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He got a hint from his own wife, Mandodari, heralded as one of the most chaste women in Vedic history. Somehow or other she stuck it out with Ravana. So she told him, "What are you doing starting all these fights with Ram? Don't you understand? He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead." And Ravana told her, "Theoretically, I understand it, but still, I want to kill him." So theoretical understanding is not enough. He didn't have the attractiveness of the Supreme Personality of Godhead infused into his heart. Only Krishna can do that. So Ravana, with his attitude of defiance, when he went down, when Lord Ramchandra took him out, terminated him, he was thinking that this is an ordinary person who's become so powerful, just like I've become so powerful. He couldn't think straight because he just had Sita on his mind. But in the next birth, this is Jai of Jai and Vijay going through his 3 sequences. In his next birth, Ravana is Shishupala. And you start to see the culmination of all these contacts with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unknowing contacts. You start to see how these contacts add up. Because Shishupala, from childhood, from babyhood, before he could talk properly, he would blaspheme the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He was chanting the names, the holy names of the Lord in such abusive, condemning, scornful ways. But he was chanting the names of the Lord. All that contact with Nrsingadev and Ramchandra was now culminating. Shishupala was pure hatred of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in a most intense personal way. He knew this is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He knew how, he was meditating on how beautiful is Krishna. Oh, his lotus eyes. He's Pitambara, he's always wearing yellow. Beautiful, I hate it. And the chanting of the holy names was always vibrating in his heart. But he would pronounce the names with such scorn, practically spitting the words out. Taityari, the killer of the demons. Pundarikaksha, the lotus-eyed one. Garuda Vahana, the master of the carrier bird, Garuda. Lakshmisha, the master of Lakshmi. Sharangi, the one who carries the Sharanga bow. He was chanting with such scorn and abusiveness. He was abusing the holy name, but he was doing his offensiveness in such a uniquely personal way. So then what happened at the Rajasuya Yagya, when Shishupala tried to spoil the whole yagya by causing a fight, combat? He knew that if he was outrageous enough and disruptive enough, there would be a fight and blood would be shed in the sacrificial arena, and that means Yudhisthira's whole Rajasuya Yagya, which required opulence, and resources beyond what we can imagine today, the whole thing would have been spoiled. That's what Shishupal's objective was. So while everyone is glorifying Krishna as the one suitable to get the first worship, the most prestigious slot was given to Krishna. Shishupal was just waiting for the key moment in the whole ritual procedure, the point of no return, the point at which if there's a mistake, the whole yajna is canceled. He waited till that moment, and then he started waving his hands. Wait a minute, just wait a minute here. We have so many qualified persons here, ascetics, rishis, sadhus, and you're listening to an inexperienced young Pandava boy who asserts Krishna? Who knows what his Krishna is? We don't even know his caste. Is he a Kshatriya? Is he a cowherd boy? He's a coward. He went on and on and on. Many of the Kshatriyas, they were just starting to pull on their swords, like, gotta finish this guy off now. Others just left. We don't want to hear blasphemy. There was about to be a fight, and that's what Shishupal wanted. He was arrogant. Come on, you have a go at me. Come on, let's get it on. But Krishna knew that if there was a fight, if there was one drop of blood shed, the whole Rajasuya Yajna would be spoiled. So what did Krishna do? He sent his Sudarshan chakra, which cut off the head of Shishupal so surgically precise, in such a way that was so surgically precise that not a drop of blood came from Shishupal. But what Rupa Goswami points out is that in that last moment, as the chakra was released and was soaring towards Shishupal, by the illumination of the chakra, Shishupal realized, this is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He fully understood that, and then off went his head. So that was the culmination. He went back to Vaikuntha. He was established in a personal relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Rupa Goswami's point is that only Krishna, Swayam Bhagavan, can do this. Infuse himself into the hearts of even persons who hate him. Krishna's sweetness, his charm, overwhelms even demons who hate him. They just can't get him out of their consciousness. Whereas Hiranyakashipu, killed by Nrsingadev, Ravana, killed by Lord Ram, they didn't have a personal relationship that was strong enough. They had a defiant attitude, but they didn't have what Shishupal had. But by the time Jai takes birth as Shishupal, he has a deep personal relationship with the holy name and with Krishna's beauty, but it's in complete hatred. So this is why when you hear about Lord Nrsingadev, Lord Ramchandra, and then Lord Krishna, you're like walking up the stairs of a palace. It gets better and better and better. So Krishna is special. The other avatars, when they kill someone, that person gradually, in successive births, gets liberation. But Krishna can do it right away, because Krishna has the charm and the sweetness. So Diti here, she's happy. My sons will be killed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. What kind of mother can rejoice like that? At first she was upset. Oh no, my sons are going to be such terrors. They may end up being killed by brahmanas. If they're killed by brahmanas, as we hear today, when they go to hell, everyone will hate them in hell, even though they're with other hellish people in hell. Still, the word will be out. These These two have been killed by brahmanas. They're especially atrocious, more so than us other hellish creatures. And then they take birth in some condemned species, and those in that condemned species will hate them too. So they'll suffer in hell, and they'll suffer in whatever condemned species they take birth in, because they were cursed by brahmanas. So this is why she's so happy to know that her sons will be dispatched by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. She knows this is special. She understands the system. Even in Krishna Leela, Kamsa understood a bit of this. When Diti is showing signs that she's expecting and that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is within her, Kamsa notices, Devaki has never looked so beautiful. She was difficult to look at because of the effulgence. So Kamsa knows something is up. And he starts to calculate based on fear. Kamsa's thing was not hatred or envy. That's Shishupala. Kamsa's thing toward the Supreme Personality of Godhead was pure fear. He's going to kill me. I don't know what to do. Will he kill me, or can I kill him? How can I kill him when he can't be killed? He was like a computer that's locked up. I got to kill him, but he can't be killed. How's he going to kill me? So seeing Devaki, obviously with the Supreme Personality of Godhead manifest in her, he was deliberating what to do, what to do, what to do. He considered, I can't kill her now. She's a woman. I can't kill her now. She's my sister. I can't kill her now. She's pregnant. He considered all that, but he's going down the checklist. Nope, can't do that. Nope, can't do that. What was the reason he gave why he couldn't do it? He said, this is so cruel that even while I'm living, people will treat me like I'm dead. He had some concern about his reputation. I'll suffer after death, and I'll suffer before death also. He's considering all the angles. I'll suffer in this life and the next. A cruel person is respected by no one. In fact, a cruel person is trashed by everyone in this lifetime and the next. I don't want that. What to do? So you may say, well, very good, Kamsa. You have some morality. What was the extent of Kamsa's morality? Wait till the child is born and I'll kill the child. And of course, you know that when he got news that the 8th child had appeared, he raced into the prison cell, it was a daughter, he didn't care, grabbed her by the ankles and tried to smash her head on the floor. So what was the value of his brief moment of morality? So Diti here, she's fearing that if my sons are killed by brahmanas, they'll suffer in hell. Even though they're with hellish people, the hellish people will single them out. We're all bad, but you were cursed by brahmanas. And they'll take birth in a horrible species, and the other members of that species will condemn my sons. But now I understand. They'll be killed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. How glorious is that? So the chapter ends on an upbeat note. She's happy, even though she's heard that her sons are going to be killed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. She's happy about that. She feels relieved. And Kashyapa is going to tell her that, look, you're repenting, you're lamenting, you're deliberating, you're listening to me. Okay, let me tell you about the grandson. So there's 7 verses introducing Prahlad Maharaj, who, as we said the other day, you'll find more about in the 7th canto. Hiranyakashipu, the son of Diti, is called Sri Hiranyakashipu because of his son Prahlad. As hideous and ferocious and terroristic as Hiranyakashipu was, because his son is Prahlad, he's called Sri Hiranyakashipu. But Hiranyakashipu considered Prahlad to be abominable, to be so unfortunate. He told Prahlad, "You were meant to inherit the whole universe. I control the whole universe, but you've blown it." You can't imagine what that kind of inheritance could be like. The whole universe is yours to rule. But Hiranyakashipu tells Prahlad, "You lost your inheritance." Hey, Durvinita Mandatma. You're so impudent, Durvinita. Mandatma, you're stupid. Kulabeta Karadama, you're the disruptor of your family. You're the lowest of mankind. So this is how Diti's son would treat Diti's grandson, who Kashyapa is saying will be unparalleled in bhakti. But Hiranyakashipu didn't see it that way. Of course, as we said, Hiranyakashipu couldn't understand the glories of Lord Nrsingadev. He thought this is a creature produced by karma. Remember in 7th canto, Hiranyakashipu, when starting to fight with Nrsingadev, says, "Who is this? What is this? Anyway, it doesn't matter. No one can defeat me." And then, as Ravana, with unsurpassed opulence, the mind was so surcharged with passion, he couldn't understand who he was dealing with. Even though his own wife, his chaste wife, gave him some hints. He said, "Yeah, theologically, I could understand a little bit of that, but anyway, where's Sita?" But Shishupala, when it's time for Shishupala, everything clicks because of the holy name and Krishna's beauty. He couldn't get those two out of his system. In fact, Krishna embeds himself in the heart of those who are attracted by his charm and sweetness. So that's what Shishupala had going for him. He had the Krishna personally embedded in his heart, even though Shishupala hated Krishna. There was a deep personal connection. So much so that in the 7th canto, Narada Muni says, "Oh, if I could only love Krishna with the intensity that these great demons hate him." Showing you how a devotee can learn from anything. Narada Muni is saying, my love for Krishna can't match the intensity of hatred in a personal relationship that these demons like Shishupala feel. So we'll move on to Diti's hearing about Prahlad Maharaj from Kashyapa, and she's happy. Kind of a disaster has turned into something with auspicious possibilities. Yes, there'll be some tough times because of Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu, but she's looking down the end of the road and seeing the coming of Prahlad Maharaj as her grandchild. Any questions? Yes, Brigupati Prabhu.
Fourth time as Jagai and Madai. Is that bona fide?
That's special. Their appearance in Chaitanya Leela, that's special. Anything to do with Lord Chaitanya is special. He's special, and those who appear in his Leelas, they are special. Yes.
Incredible class, thank you. I was just thinking, meditate about Srila Shishupala and Ravana, Kamsa, and we all have this quality, actually this quality in our hearts. So I was just thinking, if you can give some hint how to meditate. Narada Muni said, if I want to have this kind of desire, like Shishupal, if I have this kind of, desire to love, just to love God, how he hate him. So can you give some hints how to meditate about, like, those demons, what we can learn, how we can learn, what
Shishupala was attached to chanting the holy name, but he did it in an abusive way. With such condemning attitude, such hatred. He was chanting so many names since childhood. Even before he could talk straight, he was blaspheming Krishna. So, the meditation, I like this point Prabhupada makes. Prahlad Maharaj excels in his meditation on the Supreme Personality Godhead, no matter what external circumstances he was in, but we can get the same thing much easier just by chanting Hare Krishna. Think about that. Anything else?
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. I liked the point you mentioned in last class, how Kashyapa, he's not influenced by lust or something. So I was just wondering about his position, because he's also going to be father of Lord Vamana, and here he's becoming the father of these two demons. So how do we understand this?
He married 13 of the daughters of Daksha. So Diti, she was different than Aditi. So Kashyapa had the full range, the full dose. And as we were explaining the other day, have sympathy for Diti. You're a nice brahmachari. You won't understand. It took me 50 years to understand that the pressure Diti was under. All her co-wives, which were all her sisters, had children. She had nothing. Not only were they her co-wives, the other 12, but they were her sisters. You can't appreciate what kind of pressure, psychophysical pressure all that is. All my 12 sisters have a child, I have nothing. So think about that. Kashyapa had Diti, and he also had Aditi. Aditi is the mother of the Devatas. But Diti, interesting personality. Brigupati again.
Does any Acharya ever comment as to what was the reason why Kamsa didn't just separate Vasudeva and Devaki? Because he was afraid of the child born, so if he just would have put them in separate prisons.
I've never seen any detail about that. He also had some faith in destiny. Well, it's prophesied that there's going to be the 8th child. Nothing you can do about that, but I'll be ready and waiting. He had faith in providence, the disembodied voice from on high. Kamsa, you're such a fool. You're driving the chariot of your sister on her wedding day, but her 8th child will be the end of you. So when he rushed into the prison cell and saw it was a daughter that was evidently born, he was a bit disorientated. Wait a minute. Have I been lied to, or something went wrong here? So he had faith that destiny would happen, but he was going to do his best to stop from being killed. And this was his constant meditation, as we said. I've got to kill him, even though he can't be killed. over and over and over again. Day and night, all his activities, this is what he's thinking. I've got to kill the eighth child, even though the eighth child can't be killed. That is the best as I can explain. Last question. Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. You mentioned that the avatars of Krishna, when the demons come in contact with them, when they get killed by the avatars, different avatars besides Nrsimhadev, Lord Ramachandra, and Krishna, that they have a gradual process of purification. They don't immediately get liberated. And even with the example of Jai and Vijay, when they get killed by Nrsimhadev, and or when they come in contact with Nrsimhadev and Ramachandra, then only at the time of meeting Krishna does Shishupala get liberation. So could you please talk a little more about why the avatars, even though they're so potent, they're the Supreme Personality of Godhead and there's different incarnations, why it takes such a long time for these demons to get purified?
Long time? From whose point of view?
From my point of view, yes.
Yes, but it's quick enough that you could say that anyone killed by the Lord in any of his forms gets liberation. But Krishna does it right away, because Krishna has charm and sweetness. That's Rupa Goswami's point. You've got to focus on the charm and sweetness of Krishna's names and his beauty. That's special. And that overpowers the defiant attitude of the demon. And also the demon, at that point, by coming in contact with Krishna, is so invested in thinking of Krishna's name and beauty, but in a way of disgust, but it's a personal thing. You're too young to have ever had someone who just hates your guts. Has it ever happened to you? I hope it never happens to you. It's a personal thing. I can't stand him. When he walks on the street, I cross to the other side. I wish all hell would happen to his life. That's the way it is in the non-devotee world, such animosity. But Prahlad never felt such animosity, even toward his hideous father. I like how once Prabhupada in a lecture explained that through all the tortures that Hiranyakashipu put Prahlad through, Prahlad is thinking, oh, my father is playing with me. Can you imagine that? All right, thank you very much, Hare Krishna.